1250 KXEX, the best talk in town. Today, I am talking to a good friend of mine. One of the things that I love about this man is he just has a heart to serve. He loves his community. But before we get there, we got some opportunities to get involved. It is time to get involved. Freedom is asking it, demanding that we preserve it, because there's a whole lot of tyranny going on. So get out there and get involved. The first opportunity is at Bicentennial Park, Sunday, 2/13. This is to really get a USA equivalent of the Canada truck convoy going. So we're in the beginning stages, but it's going to start in California. It's going to end up in DC. We don't have all the details, but there's some logistics that go with that. We're going to need some help. So if you were to go out to Bicentennial Park, it's in Clovis from 10 to 12 a.m. They'll give you some ways that maybe you can help have our own freedom convoy. I think this puts tremendous pressure on politicians. You know, now that we're getting close to 2022 and the congressional elections, you notice the science hasn't changed. But what a lot of these blue state governors are saying is suddenly changing. Oh, yeah, we need to open up because the science has changed, except it hasn't. It's political pressure, and they realize that a tsunami's coming. Help build that tsunami. Help build that line of truckers that are standing for freedom. They're going to call us racist, misogynist, white supremacists. In the face of that, I suggest Martin Luther King's path. I suggest basically what the Canadian truckers have done. They've been peaceful, they've been calm, they've been reasonable, and they've demanded their freedom back. We need to demand our freedom back. Speaking of that freedom, also on Sunday from 2 to 4, so this is 2/13, so February 13th, there's a medical freedom rally at Blackstone in Nice in Fresno. Get out there. Again, this is a way to push our local politicians and make them realize that what they're doing to us, what's happening in the Department of Health here in Fresno County with Dr. Vora isn't right. 2/14, Monday. So February 14th at 6:30 p.m., the Clovis chapter of Constitutionalist for California is meeting at 1123 Railroad Avenue. I lead that group. We are a bunch of passionate activists. We are consistently going out, and I'm really proud of my group. We consistently go out to events, and we speak to government, and we're doing our best to make a difference. We also have multiple people running for office. Tuesday, 2/15, 6:30 p.m., the Kingsburg chapter of Constitutionalists for California is having a meeting at 15,000 Rose Avenue. Congressional candidate Michael Marr will be there. He was on my show last week. Check him out. He's running for Devin Nunes' spot. I like Michael Marr. Seems to be a genuine and honest, very green candidate, but genuine, honest, smart, successful man. Just a few more events. 2/16. This one, I'm going to go ahead and introduce my guest, but we're not going to do the full introduction. This is Fernando Banuelos. He is a good friend of mine. And he's a man that absolutely gets out there. He's going to be running for mayor of Parlier, or is currently running for mayor of Parlier. But what happens in the Fresno School District matters to all the surrounding communities. If they're cranking out kids with a 4th grade reading level, those kids are destined for government money or crime or jobs that don't pay well. They don't have the opportunities they could if they don't use education as a hand up. And so I would encourage all of you to go to the Fresno School Board the 16th, February 16th. Normally starts at 5:15. That is at 2309 Tulare Street. And demand that they stop masking the kids, demand that they address the learning loss that's happened during COVID, demand that instead of just talking about all unicorn dust and lollipops, because that's all they do is they talk about unicorn dust, lollipops, the AP students, demand that they address bringing up the rest of the school population, about 85% of it, that are struggling. They need to address that. They don't need to be talking about building new buildings. They need to be talking about having accountability. The final event that has to do with that has to do with CRT, critical race theory, the left's new version of racism. It sees people by the color of their skin first, not by the content of their character. And there's a seminar on how to push back, to understand what critical race theory is. That is March 5th from 3 to 5 p.m. It'll be in Clovis. Great event. Patiently sitting next to me is my friend, and I believe new mayor of Parlier, Fernando Banuelos.
Well, thank you very much, Eric. And I value your friendship. I remember the first time I saw you. Believe it was in Kingsburg.
It was in Kingsburg.
They were delivering flyers for myself and Valadeo Trump, and with a whole crew of Kingsburg people. And just want to say hi to all the Kingsburg people there at the Constitution of California. Fantastic. And so when I saw Eric, he had this big old hat. It was funny. And you came over, and I was like, okay, who's this guy right here? It looked kind of weird. And he had a big old smile. And I was like, okay, this guy looks like it's funny. And but there's where our friendship started. You know, it was fantastic, and we've been working together.
Absolutely.
In different events. And last time we went here to the city of Fresno, for the against abortion. About 250 people showed up, and it was a stronghold.
Good.
The most beautiful stronghold I've ever seen. That people had signs against to make Fresno a sanctuary city.
For abortion.
I'm sorry, for abortion, yes.
I'm sure they'll try to make it for other things, but specifically for abortion.
For abortion, yes. And it didn't pass. You know, we have such a great God-fearing community.
That is one of the things that's special about the Valley.
And it's still there. I mean, it's fantastic. Still with conservative rights. This kind of a point that you were talking about as far as the COVID and education. Hope you don't mind if I can give you a story.
Nope. I love your stories, my friend. I love your stories.
Okay, thank you. It's kind of hard to give you the story because I know this person very deeply, very close to me. She loves her children very much, and one of her sons was having a difficult time there at the school with math and studying. His grades weren't very good. Didn't concentrate in education that much, but it was trying. Okay, still kind of like a C- average. So the COVID came and they shut everything down, and so they're going to say, okay, now we're going to start with home based. Well, first of all, even being there at the school was tough for all these kids who are just like him.
Right, with a teacher to help keep people on task.
Yeah. And so can you imagine being there on a computer, if he couldn't concentrate in class, less there by himself, had no one to guide him, no one to tell him, no one to push him, no one to say, hey, let me see your grades. In fact, because during the COVID, the school was supposed to go over there and give these visits, at least if they missed 2 classes at with the computer. They never did. So when they came over, it says, oh, I'm sorry, but we missed a couple of visits. And the mother said, no, for 220 days, he's never been on the computer.
Wow. But see, I think that story happened all around our nation. We took a different approach to COVID, and most of our states, or I don't know if I say most of our population centers, which tend to be driven and controlled by a particular type of politician of a particular party, they decided that, we needed remote learning. And I think that had to do with the teachers' unions. Japan took a different path. They did mask, but they only stopped school twice for about 2 weeks each time. Sweden took a different path. They didn't even mask their kids. Israel's finally realized that, and they're one of the most vaccinated countries in the world, yet they're still getting COVID at a crazy rate, but they stopped masking their kids in school. What are we doing to our kids? So this is very much a state of freedom, and I think it's about creating compliant serfs that will serve the government and not dare stand.
And again, is with this kid right here, I would ask him, "Hey, how's your homework doing?" Okay, this is the sad part. I can see his depression. His eyes just drooped down. His whole demeanor, he wasn't the same. And so when I talked to him, he would just lash back.
Well, lockdowns change the world. We are designed to be social creatures. We are designed to see each other's faces. We're designed to interact.
Yeah. And so this kid, I was like, I don't even know this kid anymore. His whole demeanor got changed. He was angry, just getting, looking at other things, and then pretty soon what happens with the kids, there's more drugs. They're taking more drugs because they're trying to suppress about the depression, trying to find an out.
They're reaching out and trying to find a chemical solution.
Yeah. And so a lot of these kids who are just like him, I really believe a lot. He dropped out of school. He's working out in fields, but
that's better than at least he's not joined a gang.
No, and that's a great thing, again, because of the family.
But as soon as you drop out of school and you're of that age, you are much more likely to become connected with a gang because they give the false illusion of family.
Yeah. Well, thanks to God then and his family that, he's not at that point, although he was getting there and so on. But, when I went knocking door to door from Orange Cove to Kalinga, I met families with little kids, and the little kid must have been about 10 years old, and he would answer the door. And I said, "Good morning." Now, you got to stand your 6 feet away, right?
Right.
Okay. And I said, "Hi, I would like to give this flyer to your mom." He goes, "My mom's not home." I told him, "Okay. How about your dad?" "My dad's not home either." "Oh, well, what they're doing?" "Well, they're working." Okay. During the pandemic, which was right in the middle, everything was shut down. They had to go work.
One of the things I love about the Hispanic community is that they are some of the hardest working people ever.
Yeah.
It is truly an admirable trait. It's not their only admirable trait, but that is one that I'm always reminded of. The other thing is they're connected to God.
The foundation is still there as far as the faith in my Lord. So this kid, I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm taking care of my little sister, my little brother." Okay, the little sister was 6 years old. Little brother was 7. I would like the school system to explain this. You have a kid who's 10 years old, supposed to be in the computer doing his homework, taking care of his siblings. How can you do that? You can't.
Right.
And what happens to these kids? Their grades just dropped. And what happens? He can't even catch up to 7th grade or 6th grade work when he is just taking care of his kids. And I said, "So you're taking care of your siblings?" He goes, "Yeah." "How about your computer work?" "I have no time for that because I got to feed them too." He became the mother and the father of the household at 10 years old. How sad can that be?
But I think that is a microcosm of what's happened in the Western world. COVID rates were dramatically different in most of the Western world, what we call the civilized world. And they were dramatically higher. COVID death rates is specifically what I'm talking about. I don't quite understand why, but I would point out that in most of those places, we had greater tyranny. People weren't allowed to interact. Now, some exceptions to that, but we'll never know the true numbers in China because it is truly an evil dictatorship. Anybody that thinks it's something different, you're kidding yourself. Communism is just a different form of dictatorship. if it was not a dictatorship, then those people would be able to protest in the street without disappearing. If it wasn't a dictatorship, they would not be able to have about 1 million people called the Uyghurs. They are a Western Chinese Muslim group, and they are in internment camps and being forced to do labor. Yet we still went to the Olympics.
Yeah.
Our Nancy Pelosi, the head of the House, said, "Oh, don't speak up." Really, she told American athletes over there to not speak what they believe. What hold does China have over Nancy Pelosi? Because I don't believe that she cares about them. She just doesn't want an incident.
Yeah.
It is crazy to me how different governments have taken different approaches, but there are some beacons of hope. England just got rid of all mandates. Ireland got rid of all mandates. Denmark got rid of most mandates. Finland, Norway, and I think Sweden got rid of most mandates. Japan is getting rid of a lot of the mandates. So people are waking up. We're starting to realize the science. By the way, they've only allowed us to hear one narrative here in the United States, and so I assume it's the same for the world. It hasn't changed. It has evolved in some ways, but we knew masks didn't work. There were lots of studies 2 months in that I was able to find from around the world that said masks don't work for viruses because viruses are too small. They work for, say, bacterial infection. They work in surgery because it's stopping you from spitting into the open wound while you're performing surgery on somebody.
Well, if we look into, again, because of the Hispanic community, Channel 21, Univision, when you turn it on, everything is against the government of the United States. It's like all you hear is you turn it on and, well, all these people dying, the COVID, Trump was wrong. It's everything's really negative against the Republican Party.
So it's not necessarily against the government, it's against Republicans.
Yes. Well, again, because Trump was there.
Trump was president.
Yes.
He's not president.
Exactly. And what's really funny is that they still blame Trump for the things that are happening now. I have some of my Democrat friends that call me up. He goes, "Did you know what's going on? The high price of gas?" He goes, and they'll say, "Man, Trump, really did to us." And I said, "Wait a minute. Trump's not president. Biden is."
Well, when Trump was president, we were a net exporter of gas, natural gas, oil. We were a net energy exporter. We had so much that we sold it to other countries. Biden came in, did a bunch of executive orders, and strangely enough, now we're a net importer because Biden quashed a whole bunch of projects, pipelines, exploration, and added back regulation. So Biden very much had a hand in this, and anybody that's saying anything different simply has either got a political agenda or they're ignorant.
I think there's a lot of people out there that don't want to admit that Biden is messing up. I mean, I remember I used to fill up my car for like $25. Now it's like $50. And for me to go to LA or San Diego was great. Not anymore. You got to plan it out, saying, okay, how much money do we have left over? Do we have a little bit extra money? I talked to this one girl one time. I was sitting down waiting for my car to get fixed. And that's the way I am. I said, "Hey, do you vote?" I mean, that's the way I am. "Do you vote?" She goes, "What do you mean if I vote?" I said, "Yeah, do you vote?" She goes, "Well," she kind of looked around, right? In the room as we're sitting down waiting for our cars. She kind of looked around and she goes, and she had a mask on and stuff. And I did. And she said, she goes, "I do." I go, "Why is it that you're almost asking for forgiveness that you're voting?" And she said, "Well," she goes, "I voted for Trump." And I said, "Why did you vote for Trump?" And she said, "Well, because he lowered down the taxes for the middle income tax And I'm sorry, but it kind of gets to me a little bit. What she said was, I'm sorry, that's the way I am, sentimental, but she said, I never had money enough to buy my son extra clothes. And she said, now I do.
So,
And she said, that's the difference now in my life that Trump has done. I wish I can see her again in the same room and ask her, now do you have enough money to give extra clothes for your son and maybe take him out to go eat Chuck E. Cheese, whatever? I'm sure she would say, no, because I'm asking other people to lend me money.
yeah.
If we can talk to the people then and talk to the people now, there is less money in people's pockets.
And money is one aspect of freedom.
Mhm.
It is not the only aspect of freedom,
Yeah.
but one aspect of freedom. We're going to go ahead and take a break.
Okay.
This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, here on 1550 KXEX, the best talk in town. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about grassroots groups and kind of their role in changing it, because, you know, you look at the big giant government, and what can I do to change Washington? Not very much. What can you do to change your own community? A whole lot. And true change starts when you change yourself. There is a Christian parable about a priest that wanted to change the world. And we'll come back to that in just a minute. So we're going to go ahead and come back online. This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, here on 1550 KXEX, the best talk in town. Today I am joined by, I believe, future mayor of Parlier, Fernando Banuelos. And we're talking about freedom. I want to make a point about the grassroots role in all of this. And you might know this parable, but it talked about a priest that wanted to change the world. And now he's an old man and he's kind of bitter. And he realized if he changed himself, then he had a real shot at changing his family. If he changed his family, he could have changed his community. Those people in that community could have changed the state. The state could then change the national government. There's where real change comes from.
Wow.
I think that's powerful.
That's what a great, beautiful parable. There was another one that I read was that this king from a great kingdom, that when the king would get older and he had a son, then the son would take out the father, the king, out to the desert and let him die because he was too old. So when that son grew up and he got older, he had sons, and one of the sons says, hey, Dad, it's time to take you. And the father, you know, with a broken voice says, well, son, where are you going to take me? He said, I'm taking you to a place where you took your father, to the desert to die. So he took him to the desert and he died. Pretty soon that son grew up to get older. He had a son, and then, so when the son walked up to him and he said, I know, it's time for me for you to take me to the desert. This time he said, no. He said, Dad, I'm going to have you here to love you and take care of you until you die. He said, because I don't want my son to take me out there to the desert. So I'm going to stop that here. The same thing what you're talking about is how do we make changes in ourselves? We start with me, myself here. There was one time that when I was living in Fresno, and these kids were knocking down these mailboxes. And I went over there and I told the kids, hey, stop that. He goes, what are you telling me for? I said, because it takes me to tell you to stop. Because it starts with me putting in the law, stopping what you're doing. Because when I stopped you to do things, I'll walk away. I did something.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know.
And I hope you made an impression on that kid. You never know when you do with kids.
And what happened was that they were knocking down any more mailbox anymore.
Good. So it did make an impression.
Yes. And that's the reason I'm running for mayor. Because Eric, you and I, we see each other in these different events. And because we're making a difference, because we don't talk about it.
Well, you do need to talk about it to a point, but it's just as important to act.
Yeah. And so with myself is, a lot of people complain about the city, complain about, poverty and homelessness and so on. And, like you said, we hear about it, we get the information, we react on it, and we do something about it. So I said, I'm going to run for mayor because there are a lot of people that complain. I told one lady, she said, I'm sick and tired of the school board that they haven't done anything. I'm sick and tired about this stuff, and my kids are lagging behind in education. I'm sick and tired about it. And I said, really, lady, really? She goes, yeah. How sick and tired are you that you want to make a difference? She goes, I am, because I'm right here, and that's the reason, because I'm sick. And I said, okay, why don't you run for school board?
Mm-hmm. Or at least support a candidate who will run. Not everybody should run.
Yeah, you're right.
But everybody could get involved and help make a change. And we all have a role. And are you going to find your role? So grassroots is about finding like-minded individuals and having a discussion, forming a plan, and getting something done. Whether it's electing somebody to school board or fighting a particular mandate, whatever it is activism. And the left is really good at it. They're so good at it, they've got rich people paying for it.
Yeah.
I find that the people on my side, we all have jobs. Some of us have multiple jobs.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot harder. It takes a greater commitment. Is freedom worth it? You see what I'm doing? For me, absolutely, unquestionably. And I think also for my friend here, freedom is worth it.
Yeah, I mean, and yes, I agree with you. And so with that lady, she goes, "You crazy? I'm not going to run." I said, "Then don't be so negative. Help out people. Do something, in the community." So I just tell people, I said, "Look, I'm going to run, and if you don't want to run, that's okay. Why don't you support me with passing out flyers if you want to make a difference?"
Yeah, that's just a little thing.
Yeah. And they say, "Oh no, I can't because I'm working. I'm really tired." Okay. How about money? Well, not right now. Can you make phone calls? You know how that is. I go home and I don't want to make a phone call because I'm not really good in the phones. I go, well, we can teach you. Yeah, no, but no, How about coming to our meetings? I'm pretty busy. And I said, I see.
You don't really want change.
No.
You want convenience.
And they want everybody else to do it.
Mm-hmm. Come fix my problem.
Yeah.
I think that is endemic of our entire society.
Mm-hmm.
From the schools where you get socially promoted, whether you're actually doing grade level work or not, on up to where politicians aren't accountable. This last weekend, I did an antique show in the Bay Area, and I took photos of Gavin Newsom next to Magic Johnson at the at the football game.
Yeah.
And London Breed, she's the mayor of San Francisco, and I can't remember Garcetti's first name. Mayor of Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. Nonetheless, his last name's Garcetti. Mm-hmm. Took pictures of them. They're all maskless at a football game in California.
Mm-hmm.
And yet we're supposed to comply. They don't believe they're accountable either. And I think it starts at elementary school. We've got a whole culture of we're not accountable for our actions. And we want somebody else to do the work. Isn't that crazy?
Eric, what you just said right now is very profound. It really got to me in my heart because very few people understand that really it starts in third grade, which is reading comprehension. A lot of the kids can comprehend basically not very much. I was, one time I was subbing. And again, coming back with what you said. And so I was subbing third grade. And so the other teacher gives the kids 10 books. And this is how they're reading. Yeah, la 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 la. La 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 la. Then they get another book. La, la, la. And I said, "Do you know what you read?" No. You just read a book. Did you comprehend? She goes, "Nope." What's the title? I don't know. What's it about? I don't know. But I heard you reading. She goes, "Yeah, that's what we're supposed to do." I said, "Why don't you read one paragraph and tell me what it is?" And they go, "Oh, no, we can't do that because our teacher said no." I got the books and I said, I'm telling you right now, I'm their teacher right now. So they read a paragraph, write it, tell me what's about. They had a difficult time struggling. The next day, their teacher got upset. Why did you stop the kids from reading 10 books? Because they don't know what they're reading. They don't put in, they can't comprehend it. So these kids go on 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade. By 8th grade, there is no reading comprehension, math.
Or it might have moved up to 4th or 5th grade.
Yes. And so they give them a certificate of a certificate to pass to high school. By high school, freshman, sophomore, they drop out because it started, as you said,
but see,
elementary school.
For instance, in the Fresno School District, they don't have to drop out. As long as they do the makeup work and they get a D.
Wow.
You can get a D minus.
Oh.
And graduate high school in every single class.
Wow. When I was growing up,
your parents probably would have had a bit to say about that.
Well, it's fit that way. Back then, with the Mexican family, you bring your grades, they bring out the switch. They bring out the belt. My mom would say, "Mijo," and I knew already. When she brought that "hi, mijo," and that frown that came over, that eyes, they would look down at you, and I go, "I'm getting it now." She goes, "Mijo." I said, "Yeah, Mom. I want you to go back to the back of the yard, right? Right there where the big tree's at." I go, "Oh my God, I know what that was. I want you to choose a stick." And this is what she says. "Choose it how you want me to hit you." So you go back there as a kid. And you look at these branches. Do I get the fat one? It might be slower, but that will knock the heck out of you. Do you get the thin one? It's faster. It may not hurt as much because the fat one might knock you off. So can you imagine getting your weapon? How they're gonna punish you? And you cut the weapon and you hand it on to your mom. And she goes, "Okay." And then you want to run. And she's, running after you, and she's trying to catch up to you. But the Mexican mothers are different than the white mothers because they had huaraches, sandals. And if they can't catch up to you, they'll take out the sandals all in one motion. Take out from their feet as they're running, and then they throw it at you, and bam, they hit you from the behind the head. So as you fall down, then they get the switch, and bam, bam, you get hit. And then the next day when you go to school, you're like, "I think I got to study," because you don't want to get hit, And you're right. Exactly what you said right now.
Well, but see, there was accountability.
Yes.
Now, are you scarred? You're laughing as you told that story. That's my point. Okay. There's a bunch of liberals that go, "Oh, that's all child abuse." I'd say if it got a kid without long-term serious damage, that's different than leaving bruised marks, to actually stay on task and do the things you need to do to be successful. She loved you enough to do that.
I have a master's in business now, Eric, because of my mom.
I hope you thanked her for it.
Oh, I tell you one thing. I thank my mom and love her, and my father. When my father would spank us, I will get in the hallway, so he couldn't take a full swing. My sister, my daughter, I'm going to tell you right now, she used to get D minuses and Fs. We lived. I have a master's. The mother has a doctorate. great house, Buchanan High School, great schools. But my daughter was getting the D minus Fs. And she goes, Dad, I'm okay because I'm getting a D minus. I said, Mija, but, D minus is like an F. She goes, Dad, well, at least I'm not getting an F. Well, I'm going to tell you right now. I would, I would get the belt and I smack my daughter, for a lot of things that happen. And I asked my daughter for forgiveness because I was a very, very strict father, very strict. I had to find out where she was at. I went, everywhere and to take care of my daughter. In fact, not to change the subject, but I had to wear a long black coat with my black car and dressed up in black. And the friends that she knew, they go, is your dad in the mafia? Guy's always wearing black. And she would play with it because when she had a boyfriend, she would say, my dad will get you. If you hurt me, he'll break your legs. He goes, hey, Dad, you want to meet my boyfriend? And I go over there, hey, you touched my daughter, man. I'll come after you. And he goes, no, sir, I won't do anything. I said, I'll come after you, man. And she loved it. She goes, Dad, don't touch him. And she goes like this, Dad, don't touch him. I said, no, let me get at him. She goes, no, Dad. I said, you touched my daughter. Remember that. I'll come after you. I know where you live at. I love scaring the kids, right? Well, about 3 months ago, I told my daughter, I said, I'm very sorry. I was real strict with you and I used a bell on you. And she said, Dad, look at me now. She goes, I graduated from UCLA. She's doing very well. And she's going to go for a master's. So I'm not saying that is right. What I'm saying is that I cared for my children. I was involved with my children. So everything starts at the home.
Well, you had expectations,
yes,
and a D wasn't acceptable.
Was not acceptable.
So there's again, we're back to accountability.
Yeah.
As we're starting to wind down, I want to talk a little bit about Hispanic Outreach.
Mm-hmm.
So why is the Hispanic community unique? Because there's some things that are unique about it. And how do we use those unique characteristics to get them to realize how I believe they should be voting? Because I think that who they are relates very much to a particular party, but they don't vote that way.
That's a really good question. I get that a lot. I just tell people we need to understand the history of the Hispanic vote. We didn't vote until Lyndon Johnson signed the Civil Rights Amendment, 1963-64. Then the Hispanic people were Republicans. We started to actually vote in 1973. That's the time when I was growing up in the 60s and 70s. And the Hispanic family, number one, was God. We all went to church. Number two was family. Number three was job. Number 4 or 5 or 6 was education. The girls, they were told, why are you going to go to high school? You're going to get married, pregnant, have your kids. Just, don't even go to high school. I was told from some cousins of mine. And so throughout the years, they started to change. But God was not number one. But the foundation of Christianity and loving God still is the foundation. Number one now, education was like number 4, number 5. Now education is number 1. Number 2 is getting the job. And number 3 is family. So when we have the Hispanic community, when I used to go talk to them, I knew already it was education. Now tell them, how is your daughter doing? That's the first intro. How are your kids doing? Well, they're not doing too good. Well, this is when I went out knocking on doors. I told them, why do you have your kids at home? Schools should open up. Maybe they can have school outside. We got football outside. We got track and everything.
So the first thing I want to point out is your first approach was talk about family.
Yes. And I'll tell them, how are your kids doing? Well, right now, Fernando, they're not doing too good. Do you have internet? They go, no, we can't afford it. Because over here, we just can't get it. Why can't you afford it? He goes, we're barely making it. He goes, my wife's not working anymore. Why? Well, she works at the restaurant. She doesn't get paid. I mean, she gets paid maybe under the table. So she can't get unemployment. So she would have to stay home because the restaurants are closed to take care of the kids. And then when it got really tough, and I talked to them and I said, "Should we have to go back to work? How are we going to pay the rent? How can we get food? How can we?" They go, "We can't." So they go back to work and leave the children at home. So the Hispanic community is a very, can I put it, it's still, like I said, the foundation of God, my Lord, is still there. And I talked to people and I said, "Do you go to church?" 64% go to church. "Do you believe in God?" 97% believe in God. "Do you pray?" It was about 75% still pray.
We're going to go ahead and take our last break. So this is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, here on 1550 KXEX, the best talk in town. When we come back, we're going to finish a little bit of that conversation, and we're going to then begin to shift towards solutions. So I think one of the solutions is you can change your community if you can become the mayor of your town. But why are we hopeful? Obviously, neither one of us would be spending all of this extra time that pays nothing if we didn't believe in the American dream and we didn't believe that we could fix what's going on. So we're going to go ahead and come back. I know we didn't spend a whole lot of time with the Facebook fans. I do want to say before we come back, if you like what I'm doing, please subscribe. Please like. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Spotify. I'm on Twitter, and I'm on Facebook. I don't care if I get famous. I care that people hear this message. I think I bring it in a little different way than other people, and I hope that I inform, motivate, and inspire you to action. So let's go ahead and come back. This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, here on 1550 KXEX, the best talk in town. Today I am joined by future mayor of Parlier, Fernando Banuelos, and we're kind of talking about Hispanic Outreach, and we're going to talk about maybe some solutions. We're down to about 7 minutes, so you have the floor.
Well, some of the solutions, we, in our town, we have high poverty. I believe the middle income was like $32,000 per family. It may go as low as $24,000. There's, in most areas, about maybe 2 to 3 families living together. A person can say, "Well, how do you know?" Well, again, when you go knocking on doors, you get to meet a lot of families. And how you do that, you look at the voter roster, people that have been registered to vote. And I said, and I tell them, "There's 3 families living here." They go, "Yeah." And I said, "Okay, X family." They go, "Oh, we live in the front." "How about Y family?" "Oh, they live in the back." "How about the W family?" "They live in the garage."
Wow.
Because it's so expensive to go rent. Maybe, 2-bedroom might be $1,200, $1,300. When these people are making maybe, $1,800, maybe $2,000 a month.
And if you have a family, you're barely making it.
Yeah. If that, yeah. So I want to make a change on that. Is to bring lower, housing, affordable housing. How do we do that? To not to bring in. What happens when you have a lot of poor community? You do get contractors to bring cheap material, and I've seen that within 10 years those houses are falling apart. I want to make a big impact, bringing gated communities. When you start to bring gated communities, see if you can bring in more of a higher income. And the only way that I can do that, if I want to work closely with education, with the school system. The school system is such a vital component. It's a heartbeat of a city.
That's why Clovis is so successful.
Exactly.
A large portion. I mean, I speak all the time and I go to their board meetings, and there are problems, but generally it's a pretty good school district. Mm. So it becomes a beacon of hope, and people move there that have the means to move. And
the people that live there, again, the houses are very more expensive.
I bring in significantly more.
And you bring in a different kind of income, a different kind of person, more educated, bring in more money, better jobs. I lived in Clovis, and everybody around me, all educated. I'm not saying education brings you more money. I'm just saying that's the concept.
The odds are it does.
Yeah, it does. If I talked to the city manager in Kerman, And when I talked to him, I said, Kermit was like Parlier 30 years ago. He said, yeah, it was. What was the difference? What you guys did? Because I wanted to build Parlier successful like Kermit. And he said, but he was bringing out, different points and stuff. And I said, no, that's not it. That's not it. He goes, well, no, that's not it. So something happened. He goes, oh, I got it now. He said, because of the mayorship was consistent for 15 years or 16 years, and the city manager, they both worked well along with education. All of them had the vision of bringing in jobs that were not seasonal jobs, but jobs all year round that paid well. That brought a different kind of income and so on. And they worked together with the education system. And now Kermit has done really good in education. I think they're one of the highest schools in small communities. They brought in Walmart. They're very successful because they all work together. And that's what I want to do.
Well, I remember Kermit 20 years ago was kind of filthy and the streets were dirty and there was nothing going on. And I won't say it's a big community, but something's going on. They're doing something right.
And so when I talked to the city manager, he said, and I said, that was a turning point of how Kermit became successful. I want to do the same thing with Parlier. I want to, bring in companies, work with the school system. We have a great staff at the city. They're all great people in Parlier, fantastic people in Parlier. And we have a great education system, great teachers and principals, superintendents, a great board. I think if we all work together, and that's what I want to do. I want to bring everybody together. Let's go forward. And, I really believe that we have one of the nicest community members all there in Parlier. Parlier is very unique. And the people are very lovable. But we all need to work together. And that's the reason I'm running. I have a master's in business. I was an instructor, business owner. I was a manager for Bank of America. And I really believed I'm the right person, that I can bring a different vision. Is, one thing is, how do we not compete against other cities? Is what can we bring a product that's so unique that other cities may not have, that they want to come to Parlier and says, hey, guess what? I want to be part of the business. San Jose, in the middle of San Jose, it was terrible. It was poverty. It was ugly. But they made it into the hub of technology. That's what I want to do with Parlier, is bring in the hub of technology. How can we make Parlier different? That Parlier can say, guess what? We like what you're marketing. We like what you're selling. We like your product. Now more people are coming in because we've become very successful. Crime rate. I did hear about, I think we talked maybe with the DA, that, about the gangs that we have in Parlier. I'm in Sanger right now, in Selma. We're currently doing with the pastor, is bringing in one of my programs. It's how to reduce gangs, how to bring value into the kids. It's a whole.
Well, that is the key with gangs, is to start early.
Yeah,
and it starts a lot with mentors stepping up and being involved with the kids in an extra way. It's not just their families. Sometimes their families are working so many hours just to make it. They don't have extra time for the kids, which is sad.
What's really unique is that as an instructor, when I was teaching, you can see the kids when they're in the playground, which ones are going to be abusers, which ones are going to be gangs, that we can start early and prevent that. So that's the reason I'm running.
Well, do you have a website? How do people get a hold of you?
Well, right now I don't have one, but we're gonna build one. It's Fernando Banuelos on Facebook. So I do have my Facebook going. We just started, and my webpage will be going with that. And also I want to punch in with Matt Casares, who's a great guy. He's running for school board. I just heard that yesterday. So
cool.
Yeah.
Well, we need more people to step up, and I appreciate you being a point of hope, a point of light. You changed yourself, and now you're trying to change your community. That is a great thing. This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, here on 1550 KXEX, the best talk in town. I thank you all. Again, if you like, If you subscribe, my message gets spread a little farther. If you make comments, I do my best to respond to comments. Get out there and make a difference. There are lots of opportunities to get involved. We don't all have to run for an office. Maybe you stay, you join an appointed board and work with government. Maybe you just hand out flyers.
Yeah.
But all of it makes a little bit of difference. And if we all did something, we can change our community, and eventually we can change our nation. I thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
You have a good